Hey everybody, this is a clip from the latest episode of The Randy Rhoads Show. If you want the full episode, you can watch live on Free Speech TV, Dish Channel 9415, DirecTV 348, Sling, Roku, and Apple TV.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From Radio Beacon to Radio Beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randy Rhoads Show.
Turn up your mind.
An hour, he railed against China, the Democrats, and Joe Biden. He lashed out at the World Health Organization, the Paris Climate Accords, energy-saving air conditioners, statue vandals. It went on and on. The president at times sounding like he was reading a list or a litany. At other moments, he just seemed to free associate. He talked about all the bombers under his command and said, quote, hope we don't have to use them, and boasted of things he did 3 years ago with the wall, undocumented immigrants, all the old applause lines. But there was no applause, only silence, because this wasn't some stadium packed full of supporters who'd come to jeer and cheer and bask in the glow of this artificially tanned man. His meandering screed was not close to anything one would normally expect or accept of a president, but that shouldn't surprise us. That he chose to do it in the Rose Garden, just steps away from the Oval Office, that too should not surprise us either. That's how numb we are. We listen to this man muse and meander, rant and regurgitate the same tired tropes and untruthful claims. We watch him boast and brag and preen and do that odd thing with his nose when he sucks in air very loudly, and none of it surprises us. That is how far we have fallen. More than 136,000 of our brothers and sisters, our moms and dads, grandparents and friends are dead. The president did briefly mention them, but only to boast about how many more people would have died had it not been for his actions. He calls it leadership, but to call it that would be misleading. The largest single peacetime loss of life in this country since the 1918 influenza pandemic, and no end in sight. And today the president was taking another victory lap, yet again. The graves are still fresh, but this president ignores them, and he spreads more falsehoods.
Pray, everybody. I don't know if you're so inclined. I don't know. If you are so inclined, please pray. If you are not so inclined, just get some sage and, wave it around or disinfect, or I don't know what you to face east, everybody face to east. Hit your knees, light candles, do something, because we had to. Did you see any of that yesterday? That was the Rose Garden thing. The president meandered in the Rose Garden. Unfortunately, he had the audacity to call that a press conference. It was like watching a sociopath. It was like a psych experiment. It was listening to mental diarrhea, mental dysentery. However, it was a mumble fest. This was bath salt territory. Okay, this was tinfoil hat crap for those of you who don't know what bath salts are because you've never been to my neck of the woods. But this is like a guy who may have ingested disinfectant, bug spray, injected bleach, speaking some meth fever speech, ecstasy without the speed. What do you call that? Zyprexa, I think. But oh my God, this was like listening to somebody vomit in your face for an hour. It was so bizarre and strange and illegal. Yes, illegal. The Hatch Act. You're not allowed to use your official office to campaign. And that is what the president did in the Rose Garden, because he can't get anybody to show up at anything anymore. Tulsa, he's been bragging, 1 million people want tickets, 6,000 showed up. Wasn't exactly, well attended. People were not interested. Then he had to cancel New Hampshire. Nobody was going to show up. Blamed it on some nor'easter or tropical storm thing that never happened. It wasn't supposed to happen in New Hampshire. It was supposed to be in Portsmouth, and there was absolutely no storm advisory. Canceled that. And so now the man is literally putting on, popping pills, snorting something, Adderall. I honestly don't know what's exactly wrong with him. His niece is a doc. She has a doctorate in psychology. She's got a pretty good idea that his father was a sociopath, Fred, and so is Donald, a sociopath, and that the man is dangerous and incapable of leading a country, and he ought to resign. This is what she said in her first interview with George Stephanopoulos on ABC News this morning. I mean, but watching that last night, and then to hear her just, kind of second what you thought when you were watching this craziness, this literal idiocy, he accused Joe Biden of wanting to abolish windows and the suburbs. I mean, he used it as a campaign event, which again is a violation of the Hatch Act. It was so bad. It was so bad that not only did CNN pull away from it, not only did MSNBC pull away from it, but Fox News pulled away from it because they have an agenda, and the agenda is to get this man reelected, and showing him apparently is not good for his reelect numbers. So there was Brett Baer sitting there, and the control room was saying, Brett, get ready, we're pulling away. And he had to say something.
Abolish.
He spoke for 52 minutes before taking a question. Presidents in the past, by tradition, have stayed away from overt campaign rhetoric from the Rose Garden or the White House, but it is the president's discretion. It is worth noting, however, to be fair, that had President Obama made this kind of speech from the Rose Garden, Republicans on Capitol Hill would likely have been up in arms. But this comes 112 days, 16 weeks to the day before Election Day.
Oh, for God's sake.
Okay. It was an hour of scatological, and yes, I know the real definition of the word scatological, and that is what it was. It was a scatological stream of non sequiturs, I mean, nothing had to do. He weighed in on China and the coronavirus and the Paris climate change. And pulling out of the Paris Accords and crumbling highways, and then China again, and then military spending, and then China again, and then coronavirus again, and then the economy, and then energy, then taxes and trade with Europe, then illegal immigration, his friendship with Mexico's president, and then the coronavirus again, and then immigration again, and then crime in Chicago, and the death penalty, and then back to climate change, and then education and historical statues. And then he said, we could go on for days. And you sort of kind of thought that was plausible, that he would. It was very creepy, and it was untruthful, and it was full of, magical thinking and mystical facts that nobody has ever proven, to be true, and in fact have proven to be false. It was just, and it was about Biden wanting to abolish windows, and Biden wants to abolish the suburbs. And that, this was the weirdest. I didn't even pull this because it's so sick. And I know you don't like to hear his voice, so I'm just going to show you the transcript because I think it sounds, I don't know, more shocking when I say it because I think it got used to him being insane, and that's not good. But this is what he said, quote, you're not going to believe it. We have great agreements where when Biden and Obama used to bring killers out, they would say, don't bring them back to our country. We don't want them. Well, we have to. We don't want them. They wouldn't take them. Now with us, they take them. Someday I'll tell you why. Someday I'll tell you why. But they take them, and they take them very gladly. They used to bring them out, and they wouldn't even let the airplanes land if they brought them back by airplanes. They wouldn't let the buses into their country. Then we said, we don't want them. Said no. But they entered our country illegally, and they're murderers, and they're killers in some cases. What in the... It was so disjointed. It was like, I don't know, watching a ferret. Like they're spineless. There's no joints. They're just... It was... barely the words of a biped. Okay? It was bizarre. It was strange. It was uncomfortable. It was weird. It was full of lies. John Favreau wrote, Trump is truly a sick individual. That kind of sums it up. Rick Wilson called it rambling verbal dysentery, which is exactly, the kind of spew that I was watching. I just... Oh my God. And then Biden yesterday proposed a $2 trillion infrastructure bill based on science and need. Hey everybody, this is a clip from the latest episode of The Randy Rhoads Show. If you want the full episode, you can watch live on Free Speech TV, Dish Channel 9450.